Hey folks, okay, so many have actually been asking in regards to my Mercedes-Benz W126. This Bruno Sacco designed car. I have been a fan of this car for more than a decade, easily more than a decade. And believe it or not, this 280 SE, born in 1983, so yes, it's 36 years old with 415,000 kilometers on the odometer. This car is actually my fifth W126. I have owned 4 in the past, and all of them have been 300 SEs. This is my first 280 SE, and at one time I even had a 300 SE manual, which I found out later was extremely rare because the 300 SE apparently were mostly autos. 2 cups of coffee, not enough. So now we know. So yeah, they were mostly autos. And this one is an auto as well, but you know what, it's okay. For a big car like this, the last big car I had, which was a 4-speed manual, big car, was a E23 BMW 728i manual. And to push that clutch, I kid you not, after 6 months of ownership, my left leg was bigger than my right. Because that was like driving a lorry. I mean, seriously, it was like driving a lorry. I haven't driven a lorry in a long time, but I remember the clutch being very hard, and yes, that was. So anyway, I digress again as usual. This car, it just so happened, a good friend of mine, Alex, had this, he has a shop specializing in W126s, and I met him much earlier when I owned the 300 SEs. And I saw this car lying at his place, and it was basically, it was bought as a parts car, and if I remember correctly, he bought it also because of the number. The original number for this car was 89, and that apparently is a very good number for them. Sorry, the car suddenly just pulled out. Now, one thing with these whole big cars, the brakes are not as fantastic as new cars, so yeah, you gotta kind of plan ahead. But anyway, I talked to Alex about this car, and he said, yeah, he bought it for the number and also as a parts car. So slowly he had been cannibalizing some parts from this car for his own W126s. He's got an amazing 300 SEL, and also selling off some of the parts. But it wasn't scrap, okay? It had its own registration card. It was legit. It only had not been put on the road for the longest time. So I talked to Alex, and I said, hey bud, instead of stripping this car, because somehow it just appealed to me, despite the fact that it was sitting there with almost flat tires, with a rusted front grille. Something about this car appealed to me. It kind of made me sad to see a W126, a car that was once billed by foreign motoring media as the best car in the world, sitting there, rotting away, and having its parts slowly, you know, taken away from it. And I said, hey, why don't you just sell me the whole car as is? You know, you can keep the number, I don't mind, and I'll buy it and slowly do it up. And he thought about it for a while, a long while actually, because I could kind of see that in his mind he was doing the mental arithmetic as to how much it would cost to actually how much you could sell this car for whole, as opposed to how much he could make if he sold it off bit by bit. And he came up with a number which was actually quite reasonable. Thanks, Alex. And of course, I had to counter because I couldn't afford it. And so we finally agreed on a secret sale price, because I think deep down inside he also didn't want to see this car just suddenly go to waste. And I kind of appealed to his 126 emotions and said, isn't it better to see this car on the road, you know, driving around beautifully, restored? And I promised him I would do that, and instead of, you know, stripping it down and selling it piece by piece. So yes, it is safe to say that I saved this car from a scrapyard, because that's where the body would have ended up. You can't sell the body because of the chassis number. He could have probably even sold the engine. I don't know, maybe stripped down the engine and sold the parts. But anyway, long story short, too late. I bought the car from Alex, and I've been slowly doing it up. I've owned it now for about 3 years, I think, 3 or 4 years, and it's very hard to explain the kind of feelings you get when you've actually restored a car from that was almost scrapped to a point where you can drive it to Phuket and back with no problems, and that is exactly what I did with this car in 2017. I participated in Evo Enduro 2017, and we drove from KL to Phuket and back, and this was the oldest car there. It was not about speed, it was an endurance drive, and she performed flawlessly. So that feeling of accomplishment, because anybody can buy a new car and drive it to China and back if they want to. In fact, Proton did that with the X70 and their owners. I think 30 of them, or less than them, took 30 days to drive to China and back in their new X70s. Now anybody can do that. A brand new car should not be a problem for you to drive as far and as long as you want, okay? But a car that's 36 years old, you gotta really think twice before you do something like that. Thanks for signaling, Skynet. You didn't. And I was very, very pleased with the result because this car performed beautifully. And I also found out something very interesting. It was its first long distance drive, a shakedown drive as we like to call it. And I realized that this car actually has incredibly good fuel consumption if you're on the highway. In stop and go traffic, it's horrible. But this car, with one full tank, I filled up at Damansara. I made it all the way to the border at Bukit Kayu Hitam on less than 1 tank of fuel. Let me just say that again for effect. Less than 1 tank of fuel. Now this is a big engine. It's a 6-cylinder, 2.8 liter engine. And it comes from a time when fuel consumption was treated with, fuel efficiency, I mean, was treated with the kind of disdain, like, it was really non-existent. Nobody really... This car comes from a time when the no replacement for displacement was in full effect. Full effect, okay? No replacement for displacement. Big engines. What I like to call a lazy engine, okay? Because on the highway in top gear, and the revs actually go down, way down, and the car just saunters along. So this car will be taking part in Evo Enduro 2019 again. So that's going to be twice that I've driven this car to Phuket and back. And you know what? She's just gonna keep going and going and going. So before you ask, no, I'm sorry, this car is not for sale. I sold the previous 4 because it always happens. I buy something, I do it up really nice because I restore it like how I like it. And it seems other people like it that way as well. And then they come and offer me a ridiculous price and I ended up selling it. So, sorry, this car is not for sale. Unless you offer me a ridiculous price. But no. Sorry, not for sale, period. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this trip down memory lane on this car. Give all cars a chance because, you know, they really are worth your time and your effort. And oh, there's another beautiful car in my rearview mirror right now. Let me just show that to you real quick. Isn't that pretty? Oh, wait a minute, that's mine. Yeah, that was my E30. So okay folks, just a short trip down memory lane. A few things that I did for this car. Of course, I had to redo the whole interior. This interior bits were done by Carzone Interior. You can find them on Facebook. The dashboard was in very good condition, surprisingly, for the fact that it was sitting out in the sun for the longest time. And still the old school steering wheel with the cover. But yeah, and the clock still works as well. So yeah, it's 12:15. Little bits and pieces here that, you know, need to be changed, like there's a little chip here which didn't come with the car. I must have done this myself somehow. But the aircon is still good. The blower feels like a tornado. Yeah, I'll put it to 4. Still cold. These still work. And check out my blow pump player. Let it work. Even the cassette is old. But so there you go. That's my baby. A lot of you have been asking about this. I never did the roof lining. The roof lining was like that when I got the car, so I was lucky. The rear seats have never been sat on, I think. So if anybody wants to go for a drive one day, give me a shout out, okay? And so there we go. That's it. Oh, a bit of trivia. I had this car for about 6 months before I realized this. Cup holders. But I wouldn't drive while having those, while putting any drinks there. They're not very deep. It's just an indent. So I've got this sticky thing here, which if I ever have a drink, I would stick the drink, make sure it's stuck down there properly. Always have a tire pressure gauge with you. Okay, very important. Keep a tire pressure gauge with you at all times, and always check your tires at least once every 2 weeks. Lockable glove box. A few warning lights. There are no warning beeps or anything on this car, but a few warning lights. The other day this one started flashing, the one right next to the handbrake light. And when I say handbrake, I really mean handbrake, because that's the handbrake. It started flashing because my brake pads were wearing out. Yes, that's a brake pad wear indicator from 1983, and it still worked. How cool is that? I really wanted to get this all done up nicely, you know, because it's kind of faded and tarnished a bit, but I found out later that removing it might cause it to, the connections at the back to get loose and not work properly after that. So I'd rather have it dirty and working than clean and not working, yeah? Anyway, that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this short trip down memory lane with my car. Thank you for asking, and comment if anything, if I missed anything that you want to know about this car. Hit me up in the comments. Like I said, I try to get to all the comments, and be cool, stay cool on the road, okay? And yeah, give old cars another chance. You won't regret it, really. Okay, so till the next time, which will be very soon, take care, bye.